Okay, this is not exactly the easiest thing for me to talk about, but what the hell? Welcome to Sewing Report Live. I'm Jen. Normally I do news and commentary here on this channel within the sewing and crafts world. We're going to be getting into a little more personal and business. This is going to be kind of a chatty video, just a fair warning if that's not your thing. I understand. Hope everyone's having a great week so far. I'm filming this on Monday afternoon. And so, look, I'm going to keep it real. My Etsy shop is just not really making sense. So I want to kind of walk you through what's going on. I'm going to show you my actual Etsy stats. And the reason I'm talking about this, I know I've addressed various Etsy related topics before and doing content creation as like a job, which is what I do. And I've tried to provide helpful info for other small business owners within the sewing and crafting niche. So I do truly want this to maybe be helpful to other people in this space. Also, if you have any, after you watch this, and you have any questions that maybe I can answer, drop them down in the comments. And if there's enough questions I feel qualified enough to answer on and think I can add some value, I may do a follow-up video where we go over some of the sort of a Q&A. So genuinely, if you are another small business owner, another content creator out there, drop a comment, question if you have any questions. So you may notice in a lot of the videos I do on Sewing Report, my main channel, and Sewing Report Live, I promote my own Etsy shop a lot. And the reason for doing that is because the Etsy shop is supposed to help support these channels. I provide free content. These are free video. Again, they are ad supported, but in order to make a living as a content creator, you really have to have multiple sources of income. So just relying on the YouTube AdSense money is not a great business strategy. The income you get from YouTube is very inconsistent, and you can have, like, I've even seen some people are having some really rough years so far, 2025. And I'm even seeing a lot of people within the sewing niche express that they're having struggles with their businesses. People like sewing pattern designers, folks that also sell things like, you know, like similar folks as me, where we may do content creation and we may also have a small e-commerce shop. I am noticing, and this is not just within our space, but in a lot of different areas, I'm seeing a theme of small business owners really struggling to make it in this economy. I mean, we've even seen, again, Joann's, probably the biggest corporate chain craft and fabric store, not be able to make it. Now, there were a lot of factors for that. We all know that. But if corporate giant Joann can't make it, it doesn't, I feel like that doesn't really bode well for a lot of the smaller fish like people like myself. So I'm going to pull this up. This is my own Etsy shop. You can find me at sewingreport.etsy.com. And I don't really do sponsors on any of my channels. I've had some fairly negative experiences trying to work with some of the brands in this space. So I also just have some, you know, just some ethical reasons for operating this way. You all know I take what I do seriously. I really try to hold myself to a standard that I feel good about. Like, I don't generally accept free products. I get offered free products all the time, like literally all the time. And a lot of the sponsorship offers I get are not beneficial to me. Like, it's like, okay, you're going to make a video and we'll give you $100. And they also, I feel a lot of the brands want too much control over the content, which is not something I'm comfortable with, especially not with this type of channel where, you know, I'm like, for instance, I'm not going to be getting a sponsorship offer from Singer Sewing Machines. You know, I often will criticize some of these brands, or at least, you know, say things a little bit more unfiltered. You know, I'm not, and that's probably not going to do well for getting sponsorships or brand deals with some of these companies. And quite honestly, that's fine with me. I'm going to make it another way. And part of my strategy as a content creator has been to just keep getting bigger and bigger so that I, as a content creator, have just more leverage, because you can dictate more of your own terms. The larger a platform you have, the more people watch your videos, and these, so that's kind of how the content creation model works. And this will all kind of tie in together. So I've been operating, a few years ago, I decided to give Etsy a shot. And also I'll link in the description box some of my previous Etsy business type videos. If you want to kind of see more, like I did one about how, like, everything I had to do to start the Etsy shop. I've talked to I've interviewed bookkeepers, and I've also interviewed, I interviewed an attorney, Rob Freund, about like what's legal to make and sell. And generally I sell some fabric, notions. I've been dabbling in a few items that I hand make. And I've been doing this. I cannot believe it's been this long. I've been doing Etsy since really officially started the shop in like very late 2020. So I've been doing this for over 4 years on Etsy. And I will say, I'm glad I did it. I think it's offered me a really good way to connect with all of you. And the thought behind it is intentionally curated items, sewing products that I actually like myself use. Like, I know about all these products. I can talk about them. I can answer questions about them. These are things that, and I know sometimes content creators get a lot of flack, like, oh, they're just shilling for so-and-so company or shilling for these products. And my own personal philosophy is that I'm going to talk about, promote, and recommend products that I actually like products that I use, I think are good quality, that are a good value or useful to us in sewing, quilting, embroidery, crafting. And, if I don't like something, I've been pretty brutally honest about stuff, even if it was to my own financial detriment, i.e. the Brother Sketch embroidery machine. I will say I did not get very many affiliate sales off of that one, and that's okay. Because I bought the machine myself, I made all the content independently of Brother. And by the way, they did not like the content. I'm going to just say that. But because I don't have any sort of contractual agreement with these companies, it allows me more freedom. And I also usually put that in the first pinned comment of these videos, is that if you want to see more creators being able to speak freely, who don't have to sign non-disparagement clauses with these brands, then they need to be independent. And that's what I've largely been able to do, and I'm really proud of that. So I decided, maybe Etsy would be a good way to do things, because I can, I have control over the shop, I have control over the products I'm selling, and I don't have to worry as much about, I guess my thought was, I don't have to worry as much about, things like, the brand not being, happy with it or whatever, because this is my own thing. So I'm going to talk about some of the factors that have not been great. I would say, especially in the past year or so on Etsy. I've made about 1,000 different orders on Etsy, and I currently have about 1,800 sales. Now, sales are not orders, so if a customer orders 7 items, it's one order. It's considered one order, and then it's also considered 7 sales. So it's 7 sales. So literally, I am actually going to talk about my real numbers. All right, guys, if you want to know how much money my Etsy shop makes, here we go. So this is the month of June. Now, I think because I did have a lot more views on the videos for Sewing Report Live, just due to all of the Joanne coverage, I've had more, you can see I've had more visits to my shop compared to last year. I had 22 orders. So the whole month of June, 22 different orders. And my gross revenue, so this is before anything, this is just, I believe that might be I think that's after the Etsy fees and transaction fees. So Etsy has payment processing fees, listing fees, the 6.5% fee that they take. So right here, I'm at about $750 for 22 orders. All right, so right here, you're gonna have to cut that number in half. And the reason why is because my cost of goods are typically about 50% of the retail price. So if I sell a package of sew tights for $22, my cost of goods, COGS, is $11. So right there, 50% off for cost of goods. And other than the Etsy fees and expenses, I also have shipping costs. Etsy really, really wants sellers to offer free shipping on orders of $35 or more, which I do. And on those orders, I eat the cost of shipping myself. It can be really expensive. Some of my orders, depending on how large it is, fabric is pretty heavy, but I have spent up to like $15 on shipping in free shipping. So that's a cost I ate myself. So a lot of orders, like the smaller orders, the typical shipping cost is between $4 and $5. And you might think, oh, that's not a big deal, Jen. But if you're doing that for most of the orders or in all of the orders over $35, it really adds up. And I spend several $100s a month on shipping. I would say, I'll have to look it up, but I spend a decent amount of money every month on shipping. And the other thing is that I also have the expenses of all of the packing materials, like the mailers, boxes, packing tape, bubble wrap. I actually try to be more sustainable and reuse. Like if I receive packages from stuff, I'm like this kind of person. I will save, a nice looking, it has to be in good condition, but like bubble wrap, foam, and I will try to reuse that in my own packaging to be a bit more environmentally friendly and responsible, and and also it also saves me a little money and makes sure that my packaging is adequate for the items. Like I have certain items that I'm afraid will get like crushed in shipping or could get broken, so I really try my best to package it adequately so that it arrives to the customer without any damage. And that's something I am very, I also buy different, like I include like little business cards with every order. I also, out of my own pocket, I buy little items to put in for free with certain orders. You all don't know this either, but if you buy fabric from me, I always cut generously. I always do. So this is something I don't really tell people or advertise, but this is something I do. If I advertise like a fat quarter, instead of it being 18 inches by 22 inches, I will always cut at least 19 inches. I sell half yard bundles. Instead of cutting 18 inches wide, I will always cut at least 19, just to give the customer, just to make sure that they're getting at least what they paid for. In fact, I just cut some new fabric bundles, the Christmas bundles. I have 3 left, and they're supposed to come with 5 half-yard prints. I included 6. Again, I did not. They're not even in the photos. It's just kind of like an extra little thing that those customers will get when they, order that item. I try to price things fairly. But here's the thing, whenever anything says free shipping, it can't, like, it's not really free shipping. That business has to price the free shipping into the overall cost of the items. And, I'm going to be real. I can't really afford to do like crazy sales. I can't do like the Joanne sale, like here's 70% off the Christmas items. Like, I just can't afford to do that. So if I look at my numbers, So if I make $750 kind of gross profit for June, I would say after all of my expenses, so again, cut this in half, so 750, you're looking at like 3 something. Also, I pay a lot of money for this QuickBooks bookkeeping software because it's like it integrates with Etsy, and that's pretty expensive. I also have to pay a CPA every year to do my taxes and help me with my bookkeeping. There are licenses I have to get locally and statewide to remain in business. So after all is said and done, I would say I probably every month average a net profit from Etsy of about $200. I'm not exaggerating this. It's literally about $200 of a net profit. And guys, that's before taxes. That's before taxes. So I'm actually probably looking at more like closer to like $125, probably something like that, after all is said and done with Etsy. So looking at the numbers, and this is something I think has been hard for me because I really want this to work, and I've been doing Etsy for over 4 years, and guys, I'm not sure this makes sense. I'm really like I'm kind of crashing out and having a midlife crisis over Etsy, which is really bizarre. It's been pretty stressful lately, and I'm gonna get into why. I'm feeling kind of disillusioned with Etsy, and I will say this right now: I'm not going to be closing up the shop tomorrow or anything. I'm going to walk you through what my plans are, but conservatively, I would say I spend at least 20 to 30 hours per month working on the Sewing Report Etsy shop. And then when I look at my books, I'm probably taking home about less than $150 for 20 to 30 hours of work per month. I would say the fabric is definitely the most labor intensive product to sell. It does not sell very well. I've discussed this in a previous video, and that sucks. Like, I have a lot of fabric. In fact, I use pretty much all of the proceeds from the Etsy shop to just purchase more inventory. So that's what I've been doing, is I just use any of the, Etsy deposits just to buy more products for the Etsy shop. I think, how many listings do I have now? I have, let's see here. Okay, I currently have 62 active listings on Etsy. But yeah, guys, I'm doing all this for, it's kind of a stark, harsh reality, but like, that's the truth. I'm making about probably less than $150 a month. Definitely, again, before taxes, probably about $200, probably in the range of $200 before taxes on this Etsy shop. It zaps up a crazy amount of time, effort. It's stressful, and it's the part of my small business that gives me the most headaches. Like, I'll be real. The most headaches I get from anything I do are absolutely like from the Etsy shop. Like, that's for real. And here, I'll show you my yearly. So this is this year. So we're about halfway through the year. And I have made, again, this is gross revenue. $3,700 for 6 months of work. Let's get out the calculator here. All right, so 37, let's round it off. We'll say 3,750 divided by 6. This is the monthly average. Okay, it's even less than June. So on average, my Etsy shop brings in gross revenue of $625. And then again, cut that in half for my cost of goods. And then I would say shave off another 20%. Let's see. So let's cut this in half. So divided by 2. So that's $312. And then I would say let's take off another 20% for like other expenses, like the bookkeeping stuff, the packing material, all all the stuff, you know, I had to buy a scale. Like, there's always something you have to buy. So let's take that off. I'm at, yeah, on average, yeah, literally about 200 for 2025, $250 a month. And that's before taxes. Before taxes. So I'm going to be real. I'm really starting to wonder whether or not this is worth doing. Like, I got to be realistic about this. And I think that's one thing that we as small business owners in the maker space tend to have a hard time with is changing course, culling things that don't work, trying to make changes so that your business can survive. And that's kind of why I wanted to make this video. And look, I'm being like, and here's the thing, I have the benefit, like Etsy is not, I have the benefit that Etsy is not my sole source of income. I'm fortunate enough that it's not, but you know, it's like you like, I would think the shop would be doing better. And it's really just, unfortunately not. I have this channel that's close to 13,000 subscribers now. I've got the main channel, Sewing Report, which has over 125,000. And, you know, and I use both of those channels to promote the Etsy shop. And again, I'm netting about $250 a month. Like, what do you think? What do you like okay, let's say I do 30 hours of work. All right, so let's say I do 30 hours. So 250. All right, we're going to divide this by 30. So let's say I do 30 hours of work. And that's for like everything from doing the bookkeeping for Etsy, doing all the packaging of orders, there's a lot of admin work with Etsy that you start to get into. So let's divide that by 30. Okay, here we are, $8 an hour. I'm literally making $8 per hour for the Etsy shop. I mean, that's not looking real good here. So I guess the point is that, again, because I'm a content creator and I have quite a few different sources of income, some of it's not even related to Sewing Report stuff, but there's just a lot of other things I could be doing that would generate more income for the same amount of time and effort. So like, this is kind of hard for me to deal with, but like, that's it, you know, it is what it is. So yeah, that's how much money my Etsy shop makes. It really, I would say, like, that's not really even a profit. I would say this shop about breaks even. I would say it about breaks even, especially when you factor in the fact that I use the proceeds to just purchase more inventory. All right, so I want to get into, this is going to be a bit of a rant about Etsy as a platform. I have some major issues with Etsy. There are things that I'm really not happy with as a shop owner. And yeah, I'm going to let it all out. We're going to let it all out. Okay, the first thing, the star seller program is total bullshit. I hate it. I really hate it. I do suspect a lot of other shop owners feel the same way. I don't see any real benefit to sellers with it. I think it's added on a lot of unnecessary stress and anxiety to the shop owners, and it's just made Etsy it's just made it pretty kind of terrible as an experience. So if you're not aware, the Etsy, let me bring this up, the Etsy Star Seller Program, I freaking hate it. I really do. I think they should like disband it. Like, I just do not like it. I think it's made my experience as a seller infinitely worse. I don't even think it really has a lot of customer benefit either. And I'm going to get into why. All right, so here is the Star Seller Program. So it says, show off your customer service with a Star Seller badge. Star Seller celebrates and rewards Etsy sellers who have a proven record of providing excellent customer service. So like, and we don't even, it's been like over a year since I think this was implemented, and we still don't even exactly know, like, I don't feel like there's enough transparency with this at all. where we know like how much it hurts your shop to not have this badge, how much it helps. So you earn the badges for speedy replies, smooth shipping, and rave reviews. So what this means is, all right, and this is what I think is really shitty. So if you have all of the shops, in order to get this stupid badge, you have to meet all of Etsy's metrics. So it means you have to reply to all messages within 24 hours. Smooth shipping, you have to ship within the time frame, and rave reviews. This is the thing that really chaps my ass. Etsy considers, if you're not aware, Etsy considers any review less than 5 stars to be bad. So if a shop does not get, okay, so here it is. So it says reply to the first message within 24 hours, earn a ratings average of 4.8 or higher, make at least 5 sales worth $300, and ship orders on time with tracking or a label from Etsy. Okay, so I'm going to tell you why I really do not like these metrics. Okay, I don't like I understand. I don't like that Etsy is trying to police and control what small independent Etsy shops, how they operate, how they choose to operate their business. I don't like it. I think it's really made the platform much worse, especially for the sellers. And it's actually kind of made it worse for buyers too, and I'll explain why. So the reply to the first message within 24 hours, like that's, like you're always having to check the messages, like, because you don't want to miss it. And the reason I currently don't have the Star Seller badge, which I don't even know if it's hurt or helped my shop, like that's the thing. I literally have no idea. And that's what I'm like, okay, what the hell, Etsy? If a seller does not want to do this, I don't think they should have to. I really don't. And then the buyer the potential customer can decide whether or not they want to, buy from that shop. But I really don't like Etsy trying to force all of the sellers to do this. Okay, let's talk about the ratings. The sellers, myself included, are so on edge about reviews now that it's become really stressful. Whenever I get a review, I'm bracing myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, is it going to be what's it going to be like? And it's just become a very unnecessary source of anxiety for me that sellers are even really, really anxious about getting a 4-star review, literally a freaking 4-star review. So I think this is also really stupid. And, I just think I really think Etsy should just shut this shit down. I think this has been, just in my experience as a seller, I think this has been freaking terrible. Just absolutely terrible. It's like more chances to be featured, more. So it's like if you don't, so here's the thing. I feel like Etsy's trying to force us to do this by saying more traffic and sales. Star sellers made more sales and got more listing views on average than similar non-star sellers. So if you don't want to operate your business in the way Etsy tells you to, Etsy is going to penalize you for that. And I think how it's become kind of bad for buyers is that all of these sellers are now so they're just so anxiety ridden about every customer giving them a 5-star review. I think it's leading to more and more shop owners kind of trying to hound their customers for reviews. I just think it's I think it's created a very kind of toxic environment for the buyer-seller relationship. And it's not, I don't think this is good. I really don't think this is a good thing at all. The other thing, so I had a few very, when something happens and it just feels like it's a catalyst, you get a moment of clarity. You're like, oh my gosh. I've had a few things, I've just had a few experiences as a shop owner that make me just want to hang up. I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I even doing this? And one of the things is that I've noticed we've become so used to and expecting businesses to have policies where you can return anything, you can get a refund for anything, you can exchange things all for free, free shipping. Everyone's come to expect free shipping, free returns, free exchanges. And we're now at the point where customers are getting upset with very small Etsy shop owners for not having the same corporate policies, like the same policies as corporate giants like Amazon and Walmart. And we just can't. I literally, just to put things in perspective, if my shop got I would say three customers asking for full refunds where they keep the product or wanting to return things for free where I covered the cost of shipping both ways. If I had 3 of those a month, I would be operating in the negative. Plus, it would take a lot more time because then you're dealing with the customer and they're not really a customer because they're not really buying anything from you at that point. And I've had customers get upset with if you're not aware, my shop does have an all sales final policy, and I am not able, you saw my numbers, I am not able to offer people returning anything for any reason, giving people refunds, giving people free stuff. And that's become a problem too, is we're kind of in a low trust society where customers are scamming now and committing digital theft. And that's become a problem. Or where you're buying things with the intent to return and you're wanting to get a refund for no legitimate reason. So I have had a number of customers get upset with me, and my policies are pretty clear, by the way. I have a no returns, no exchanges policy. Now here's the thing, and I've even added additional language into all of my areas of the shop just to make it super obvious. In all of my listings here, I have to put this, here, I'll show you. I have to put this photo in here because people don't, and that's the other thing, is that people kind of don't read all this stuff. But even I've got to put hey, please see complete item details to review the full description before making your purchase. This item is final sale, no refunds, exchanges, or cancellations. And despite all I do to try to make it really obvious that I'm not able to offer the same, type of no questions asked returns or refunds as Amazon, I've had a number of customers get really get angry and upset. And then it's what do it's do you make it, and it's but if I make exceptions for everyone and just let people return stuff and refund people, I'm operating at a pretty significant loss, and I might as well just freaking close up shop. It's not, I can't even do this. So I think that's the other issue. And if you're an Etsy shop owner, I'm sure you've dealt with this, but people want you to make exceptions for them for everything. People want to just buy stuff, use it, try it out, return it. And I'm just not able to accommodate that type of thing. So, by the way, if you just be aware of that, and if you're not comfortable with that, I completely understand. If you want to shop at Amazon where you can, return something used or whatever, I don't blame you and I understand. But then I would, tell you my shop is probably not for you because I'm not able to let people return things, refund things without a valid reason. Of course, if something got shipped to a customer and it was broken, of course I would make things right. I want to operate my business as ethically as possible. So if you have a legitimate issue with your order, again, don't let that scare you off. But if there's a problem and it was my mistake, if I, one time I accidentally shipped, I was printing out 2 shipping labels and and somehow there was a glitch with my label printer and both of them went to the same customer instead of printing out 2 different labels. So one customer got 2 orders. And I realized this when one customer was hey, I got this extra thing. So what I ended up doing, I let that customer that got both things, I let her keep the other thing, and then I shipped out the correct item to the original customer who never got hers. So if it's my mistake or something that's wrong with the product, I'm very willing to make things right, but I literally can't, I just literally can't accommodate people who are trying to get a refund or return things without like a legitimate reason, if that makes sense. In fact, I had to pull an item because, so I've been selling those, I'll be frank with you. I've been selling those like waters, like they're water and heat soluble marking pens for dark fabrics with white ink. I've been selling this product for almost 4 years now, and I've never really had any, I've never gotten any customer complaints. This is an item I use a lot myself. And recently I got 2 very similar customer complaints, and they, of course, both left me 1-star reviews. And I just ended up pulling the product. And the thing that made it tricky is that, of course, this is not an item I made. This is a supply. So, I was not aware if there was a manufacturer defect with the product. Also, these pens come sealed in the packaging, so I can't test out each product before I send it to the customer, because that would require me opening the package and using the item, and then it would no longer be new. So I had no idea this was happening. So I just ended up like, I still have a bunch of them, and I don't even know what to do with them now, because I don't want to risk getting another unsatisfied customer. And the funny thing is, like, I reached out to both customers and was like, hey, can you tell me more about this? And send me and here's the thing, I also don't, as a seller, don't want to get scammed either. So I asked both of them, pretty nicely. I was like, hey, would you mind sending me like a picture of what's happening when you've been trying to use the pen? And I was gonna just refund their money, but both of the customers just totally ghosted me. Like, so I was like, okay, that's kind of weird, so I just ended up pulling the item because I was like, I don't know. So, and the other thing you should know is that for the fabric, especially for it not being a very good seller, one, it takes up a ton of room in my house to store. It's the most labor intensive product to sell because I have to, cut bundles or cut it to order by the yard. It's very expensive to ship because it's heavy. So with my free shipping over $35 or more, like that's a significant shipping cost. Like for instance, the Christmas fabric bundles I have, it's like it's 5 half yards, and the cost to ship is I think it's about $9.55 now. So the product costs, so I charge $29 for it. If they pad the order with something else and get free shipping, so say they ordered, $35 worth of stuff, I'm paying on that order the $9.55 shipping for free. So there's and that's the thing, like a lot of customers are going to be put off, and I understand why. They're going to be put off by paying $9.55 for shipping because they become so used to like the Amazonification and the Walmartification of the world, and it's just kind of frustrating as someone who operates a very, very small Etsy shop that people have that same expectation for a solo, like I operate this Etsy shop out of my house. They have the same expectation as Walmart and Amazon. It's just not feasible. And I feel pretty lucky because I think I probably get a lower percentage of, like, I would say problem customers than a lot of other Etsy shops, just because a lot of the people who order from me are Sewing Report viewers. So I do think I probably have a higher caliber of person ordering, and the vast majority of people are really, kind, and, there's no issues, but it is really, really stressful to deal with even the handful of customers who, want to, don't they didn't read the instructions, or they bought something, it didn't work out for them, but it wasn't like a problem with the item. It was just what they were trying to use it for didn't work, but the item was fine. And to me, that's not a valid reason to return or ask somebody for a refund. Now, look, I encourage people to reach out before, like if they have questions about the items, I use them. So I'm happy to try to do my best to, assist customers in making the right decision for them. And I'm going to be real. I would much rather not make a sale than have someone make a sale and be unhappy and unsatisfied. So I would much rather just not do that. And that's the thing, like, this is not my main primary source of income. So I really can't justify spending all of my time on the Etsy shop, especially not for $250 a month. So I'm kind of at a real crossroads crisis with this Etsy shop. And this has been kind of, this has been hard. This has been hard. I'm just, this is just kind of brutally honest here. I'm all right. First of all, I'm definitely not going to be expanding or, I'm not going to be growing this shop. That is, for sure. Oh, and by the way, for all the people who might be like, oh, well, why don't you just, leave Etsy and do your own e-commerce shop? Okay, let me just tell you something. Operating a separate e-commerce shop would cost more than being on Etsy. I know Etsy has a bunch of headaches, but for me, it still makes more financial sense right now to be on Etsy. I would have to be doing a lot more volume in sales to even start to consider doing a separate e-commerce website. It's just too expensive. And you would still get a lot of the same customer hassles, because if you're using payment processors, like if you're allowing people to use like PayPal or Stripe or whatever, those customers can still make a stink by trying to do like credit card chargebacks or opening a case with PayPal or Stripe. And I will say a lot of these platforms tend to side with the buyer, the customer, and not with the seller. So just know that the sellers tend to get the short end of the stick with any sort of customer dispute. And that does suck, because unfortunately there are some pretty crappy customers out there, crappy buyers, and that's just the real. Oh, and the other thing I want to say is I've also noticed more and more, I buy a lot of my inventory from a distributor, and I'm noticing more and more brands are restricting anyone from selling their item on Etsy. So I've had to discontinue some some products I sell, because that vendor no longer allowed anyone to do Etsy. Like, they don't allow you to sell on third-party sites, Amazon, Walmart, Etsy. So they require anybody who sells the product to have, sometimes they require you to have a brick and mortar store and or a standalone e-commerce website. So also you couldn't sell on like a Facebook page or like an Instagram. You have to have so they're really trying to limit who can buy their products wholesale and resell them to more of like your standard businesses. And it cuts out Etsy sellers like me, which is kind of a bummer, because some of the products I've been restricted from selling, I liked selling them. I thought they were good products. And it's unfortunate that they really don't look at things by like a case-by-case basis or make any exceptions, but it is what it is. So I've had to limit what I can sell. All right, so what am I going to do moving forward? All right, so I'm not, I just want to tell you, I'm not up and closing the shop right now. I think what I'm going to do, I obviously need to spend less time on the Etsy shop. So when inventory sells out, I'm not going to be I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to be repurchasing inventory. And especially once I sell through the fabric, I'd like to be able to offer fabric, but I can't. So I'm going to be I'm definitely phasing out the fabric, and I will be, over time, I'll probably still always have a presence on Etsy, but I'm just done with all of the Etsy bullshit. I think the platform's become a very non-friendly place for sellers. Also, Etsy has been jerking around a lot of shops with their ever-changing creativity standards and all this, all this nonsense. So and also they allow all kinds of like they're not cracking down on all the obvious resellers and drop shippers, mass-produced crap that's really turned Etsy into like a Temu junkyard. They're not really cracking down on those things, but they're cracking down on 3D print sellers and that kind of thing. So I know a lot of sellers have had some issues more recently with Etsy just constantly changing the bar of what you have to do to be in good standing with the platform. So yeah, I've kind of had it, man. Like, I've kind of had it. So I'm not going to be ordering new inventory. And believe it or not, I still have a lot of fabric that I haven't even listed yet. So I still have I have inventory for probably several years before I would sell out of it. So, and that's the other thing is that, especially with fabric, it takes so long it takes me, especially with fabric bundles, to cut all the fabric bundles, photograph. I do the vast majority of my product photography. The vast majority of it I do myself. So even just taking all the photos, getting everything ready, setting up all of the things for the products, and then editing the photos, creating the listings, that takes a lot of time. I have to do quarterly reports for like my state sales tax stuff. I mean, it's just a lot of work, and there's really not enough of a return. There's other activities I could be doing that would have a much better return on time and effort. So I think I'm definitely going to be moving. I'm definitely going to be sort of phasing out and kind of winding down the shop, not ordering any more inventory. But guys, I still have a lot of stuff. So yeah, it is what it is. That's where I'm at with this Etsy journey. And I'll be real. I've learned a lot from doing this. I'm glad I did it. I don't regret doing an Etsy shop. I think it's taught me a lot. I think it's helped me in many ways, but I really don't agree with a lot of things Etsy corporate is doing. And they really, let me know if you're a seller, what you think of the star seller program. I also really hate that sellers have such anxiety over getting anything less than a 5-star review that they consider Etsy considers a 4-star review to be bad. Like, what world do we live in? So I know this has been kind of long and, unhinged, but whatever. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And yeah, so that's where I'm at. It's been kind of a casual chat. So yeah, and I will link to some of my previous Etsy videos down in the description box if you want to learn more. But yeah, leave questions if you have any, and if I get enough, I'll probably do a Q&A. So, all right, I'll catch you guys later.